Hi, my name's James Purser, and this is Purser Explores the World, Episode 2, Super DIY. Yes, I am back for another episode, so we've overcome that hurdle. Before we go on with this fortnight's episode, I would like to bring up a quick follow-on from last fortnight's episode. This one was sent to me by Professor Ivor Cairns. It was regarding the 11th Annual Space Science Conference. Now, this is being held in Canberra starting on Monday. So it's running from September the 26th to the 29th. And it's going to be held at the Australian National University Canberra City campus, University Union Level 1. Now, what I'll do is I'll put the link up on this episode's information so you can follow it along. But yeah, if you have a deep interest in space and want to see what people are doing, then I heartily suggest that you move along there and see what's going on. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's move on to this fortnight's episode, Super Do-It-Yourself. Now, I'm not just talking about the sort of people who, can put in their own swimming pools or lay down their own carpet or knock down a wall and make sure the house doesn't fall down so that they can extend a room. I'm talking about the sort of people who take on projects beyond that. Now, we heard from one of those groups last fortnight with Marco Ostini and the Lunar Numbat team. These are people who have decided that they're not professionals, they don't do it for their day job, but they want to do something cool and they want to do it themselves. So I'm going to be talking to Paul Wayper from Canberra. He's going to be talking to us about his electric motorcycle that he's building. And I'm also going to be speaking to Stephen Dade from the Canberra UAV club. Now, these, again, are like the Lunar Numbat guys. They're amateurs, in the best sense of the word. They're not amateurs in that they're shoddy or whatever. They're amateurs in that they're not getting paid for it. They're not professionals. They're teaching themselves how to do it because they have a deep, abiding interest in it. And I was trying to organise an interview with Kathy Reid from Victoria about her very cool knitting and electronics project. However, now this is all down to my fault. It was ships passing through the night, and we missed the interview time, but I will be catching up with Kathy as soon as I can because her knitting and electronics project, I won't describe it here now, but it is truly, truly inspiring. Okay, first up, here's Paul Wayper.
I've actually taken a Yamaha FZS 600, bought it at essentially a motorbike wreckers up in Sydney. It had been an accident and part of the left engine, one of the casings had been pretty badly damaged and had a few fairings to replace, but the frame was sound and the wheels were all okay and there wasn't sort of a lot of damage structurally, so it was a good sign. Got that home, took the engine out, and the rest of, whenever I tell the story, it always sounds like you could do it in a weekend, and you probably could if you had everything there and you knew exactly what you're doing. The problem for me is partly that I've been busy doing a whole bunch of other stuff, and partly that every step of the way, there's always something,
something to distract you, or
some complication in the plan. So, for example, I wanted to, when I started looking at the project, there are a lot of different options, and I settled on going with a hub motor that I bought from a company called Anyhoo in the States. They basically went to the largest hub motor manufacturer and said, make us a 10 kilowatt one.
Okay, just to stop you there.
Sorry,
there's a lot of people who are listening, and myself included. What is a hub motor?
Well, the basic idea is you take a motor that is where the rotating bit is the outside of the casing, and then so the inner bit is the stator that's static. Attach all the electric wiring and so forth is on that.
Mm-hmm.
Then that, when you apply current, that moves the outer casing of that, and that is the outer casing is connected to the rim of the wheel. So the good thing about this is that I don't have a chain, I don't have a drive shaft, I have no other bits and pieces. The only thing that rotates is the motor and the tire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a brushless DC motor, which means that it essentially has 3 sets of coils linking up 3 sets of magnets, and as each particular coil comes up to a given magnet, the Hall effect sensor will tell the controller that's the one to fire up, and it will pull that one in turn. So the beauty of hub motors, the beauty of brushless motors, which is why I went for them, was you don't have the brushes to wear out, and your brushless DC motors are essentially AC motors, except they have permanent magnets in them, whereas an AC motor is usually an induction motor where the other side of the thing being attracted is also a coil that's being energized by electricity.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, you've described, you went up and you got the bike. What actually led up to that idea? How did you get the idea of building your own electric motorbike?
I had started becoming interested in electric vehicles, and I've actually only recently started riding a motorbike. I picked it up in 2008. So I was at that particular point, I was thinking, I've got it's a reasonable income. I knew I wanted to build something. I didn't want to just keep on buying bits and pieces or new, gaming computer parts or things like that. And I thought, why not an electric motorbike? Because I was, also thinking, well, the next upgrade is going to be a faster bike or something like that. I might as well spend money on a bike that I can build and that I get in, that I'm interested in. And it turns out that the whole project is probably costing me about $12,000, but that's how much you'd pay for a decent
petrol bike.
Petrol bike, of about the same, maybe lower spec, but about the same size and weight and so forth. So at that point, I thought, this could actually work, and then started going along to the electric vehicle group and got some ideas and started getting involved with them, and just went on from there.
So is there a big electric vehicle community? You're based in Canberra, but would you say there's a big electric vehicle community in Australia?
I think it's like any hobby. There's probably fewer people building and running electric cars than there are people building and running model train sets, I'd say. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing for me is that there's 2 sides to it. One is that the people who say, this is what I want and I can build it, and they go out and build it. The other is that the people who say, I care about the environment and I want to have an electric car or an electric something or other, and I'm going to look around for one and find one. And often, now that you can get the Mitsubishi Imiev, the Leaf, the Tesla was the one that really turned the whole world around and said, hey, electric cars can be cool. And
the environmentally friendly midlife crisis car.
Yeah, but you can argue that with Simon Hackett because he has one.
Yes, he's got way more money than I do.
Well, this is a common complaint. But he's also set the world record for distance in an electric vehicle.
He went across the country, didn't he, in a Tesla? In his Tesla?
Yeah, Darwin to Adelaide, and did 560 something kilometres on one charge, which when you read the write-up of it, you wouldn't want to be in the car for that, because it's driving along with no air conditioning, no fan on a 35-degree day in the middle of nowhere somewhere outside Alice Springs.
With the windows open, your head hanging out, trying to catch the wind.
No windows open. You don't want air resistance.
Ah, true.
And very, very carefully trying to keep it as close to 80 kilometers an hour as possible. So anyway, that's beside the point. The other interesting thing for me about the getting into the electric vehicle scene is that I've also sort of about would have been at the start of this year, I think. Another guy came along and said he was interested in building an electric motorbike as well, and that's pretty singular, really. And it's been really useful for both of us to have the other person to bounce ideas off. He'd been looking at a whole bunch of different batteries that I didn't know about, so I added them to my collection, and then I made up my battery database, which I put on the web so that he could use it as well. And he's the kind of person that will scour the internet looking for, particular parts, particular connectors for battery, for motorbike things. So a very, very useful resource to have with Tony.
Well, okay, so what's the biggest challenge you faced in building your electric motorbike?
Fitting the batteries in.
Actually, batteries would be a massive problem for you, wouldn't it? Because there's weight as well.
Yeah, but on the other hand, and that was going to be the limiting factor. And I knew when I weighed it, the motor and all the bits and pieces, motor, muffler, exhaust, air intake, fuel tank, so forth, weighed about 84 kilos. So I knew I had that limit, and I then, one of the things that I wrote into the battery database that I wrote was being able to construct a pack at a certain voltage, at a certain weight. So I then knew that limited what batteries I could select. And I got some prices of some pouch cell batteries, which are sort of like the ones that you get in mobile phones. But if you imagine a sheet of battery about 30 by 40 centimeters, and about 7 mil thick, then that was one I was looking at. That would be in 70 amp hour. It would be able to, I think it was able to do 450 amps continuous, or 350 amps continuous. And the only problem was that the whole pack would have cost about $12,000, $13,000, not including shipping.
Mm.
On the other hand, the batteries that I did go with, and that would have been 66 kilos too. But on the other hand, the battery I did go with was Thunder Sky cells. They're 60 amp hour. They're about 2.2 kilos each, and there's 38 of them in there. So they're about 83 kilos. And that was the first real limiter.
Mm.
The second one is just how are you going to fit all of those batteries in the space available, given that I can't, I only, if I cut the frame or drill it or do anything to it, then I have a lot more problems with the scrutineering to get it actually roadworthy. They have to make sure it's all cross-braced and etc. Whereas if I leave the frame as it is and just add to it, then they're fine with that. So the hard, and this would be, for anyone wanting to build an electric bike, this would be the thing that would always change. You could use the same electric motor, but just the different frame, unless you had that exact frame, your mounting system is going to be different from mine, and that's fine. You know, that's what the whole learning process is about, really.
Mm. Now you've started blogging about your bike recently. You haven't been doing a lot about it. You haven't put it up until recently. Where can we find that?
I've been rather shamefully not blogging about it. I've mentioned a few things on my blog over time, but I haven't actually set up a web page for it or got photos together, all that sort of thing. I'm doing that rather annoying proprietary software thing of only producing the web page when it's actually finished.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in part, because what I will be doing is when it is actually there, I will be detailing what I put in it, the kinds of things that I decided in the process, and what I then, what I would recommend to other people. So,
Mm-hmm.
I put one set of throttle things, electric throttle, and I found out later they were basically like a potentiometer, like a resistor. So over time, as you use that, the contacts wear and it starts getting glitchy. So I then bought another set, which was a Hall effect set, so there's no actual contact metal to metal. So that will last a lot longer. And even then, I would rather almost go with another have if I kept the original throttle control with the two cables going down into somewhere, I could have then used a different Hall effect sensor, which would have looked more like a regular bike. At the moment, it looks a bit more like the handlebar bits look a bit more like a scooter, but such is life.
So, do you have an ETA?
Well, I'm really, really aiming for it to be ready at least to show off next Sunday, this Sunday, the 25th.
Yep.
That's the Canberra Electric Vehicle Festival. There'll be a heap of cars there. We have 3 Teslas coming along.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of IMEVs, a bunch of Blades.
Whereabouts?
That's on the lawns in front of Old Parliament House.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday, basically starts at 10, goes till about 4 from memory.
Cool.
So I will be there, Tony will be there. We also have Chris from Western Australia. He's been building a bike and racing it in the TTX GP. That's the electric motorbike racing series.
Mm-hmm.
We've been very lucky in Australia. We've actually got an Australian leg, so to speak, and the winner of this gets considered in the whole grand final kind of thing, which
cool.
Been racing in Britain and Europe and America and everything. So having one in Australia as well, even though there's only 3 people there, is still pretty impressive. And given that one of the bikes there was there's a video of it recently going in a regular track day with a bunch of 250cc motorbikes, and it starts in 7th, 8th place and finishes in 4th.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. That means it's definitely keeping up with them. And this mainly because he built it as a race bike, and that was the big thing as well for me. I had wanted to build my bike so that it could do a full day's riding around town. I was never going to be able to do big trips with it. It's just the reality of big bikes. Yeah, but being able to do at least 100k. So I knew I wanted larger batteries. Tony has gone for a smaller battery. They're cylindrical cells and they deliver more current quickly. Mine don't produce as much current, but they're I think he's ending up as, I think he ends up at about 40 amp hours of battery in 1960.
And a big thank you to Paul for taking the time out to have a chat about his bike. Now, there is the Electric Vehicle Festival coming up. If you want to have a look at that, I will include the URLs in the episode information, but I'll just include them here for completeness. That's electricvehiclefestival.com.au. And the Canberra EV group is at canberraev.org. Now, I'll include those in the episode information if you're curious, but I recommend you go and have a look. 3 Teslas rocking up cannot be a bad thing, and have a look at what Paul's been up to with his bike. All right, next up we've got Stephen Dade. Now, Stephen's from the Canberra UAV group. Now, I'll let him explain what that means.
Yeah, we're competitors in the Outback UAV Challenge. We're hoping to compete in it next year, and we're gradually building up a UAV to enter in it. The competition is basically you have to build a UAV to search a given area of bushland or farm area for a missing bushwalker.
Mm-hmm.
It has to. Yep.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you there. Just for our listeners, what is a UAV?
Okay. UAV stands for an Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. It's basically any sort of aircraft that is controlled by a software or computer of some description, and you've not got a person actively flying it.
Mm-hmm.
Much like in the media, you will have seen the most famous example of this would have been the Global Hawk, which the US Air Force is using quite a bit these days.
That'd be the ones that they're using in Afghanistan and places like that.
Yes, it would be.
So you're building basically an unmanned air vehicle. So we're talking about like a remote control plane or something like that?
I suppose it has I wouldn't go as far as to say remote controlled, because sort of the person doesn't really control it as such.
Mm-hmm.
We may have, like in our case, when the UAV is completed, we will not have direct control over it. We'll have a button, like a big red button to make it stop or abort the flight if it flies out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it does everything else itself. We just tell it, go to this position or search this area, and it does the rest, sort of thing. I mean, we have remote control capability as a backup control, but it's not something we'd use in a normal circumstance.
So how did you get involved? How did you get started with this?
Okay. We would have started about November last year. At a sort of a hackerspace group that I'm a member of called Make Hack Void here in Canberra.
Mm-hmm.
At one of our meetups, one of our group members showed us this awesome video of the 2010 UAV challenge, and we all thought that was really, really cool, and we started talking about, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if we created an entrant in the competition as well? And from there on in, got a few guys interested, then a couple more guys as well, and we started building our UAV.
Okay, well, how close are you to being finished?
That's a very good question.
Well, I don't want you to give the opposition, hints and tips, but
I think at the stage we're going along quite well at the moment. We hope to. Up till now, we've just been doing short range testing at a local model aircraft club here.
Mm-hmm.
Just flying little circuits, testing the equipment. Like, especially we've been doing very, very thorough testing of the autopilot software and hardware. Because even the tiniest of bugs in the software can destroy an aircraft. We've had that happen once or twice already. So, once we're satisfied that the hardware is solid enough for us, we'll start doing long-range testing probably within the next month or two. We'll go out to like a farm or something out in the country, and we'll set it up and let it fly up to about 5 or 6 k's away, let it do its thing, and hopefully come back.
Very cool. So how many teams are up? So this Outback UAV competition, so what's the prize? What's the aim?
Okay, the aim of the project is to find a missing bushwalker in a given search area. The search area is about 1.5 by 2.5 kilometers square. What the UAVs have to do is they have to take off from a nearby airport, navigate to the search area, search the search area, and then once they've found the missing bushwalker, they then have to drop half a litre of water to the bushwalker as accurately as possible, and then fly back and land at the airport.
And all of this on its own?
All of it on its own, completely on its own. Which is, it's a complex sort of task to do. We're pretty confident we'll be able to get there.
Well, I hope for the bushwalkers' sake you are.
Oh yes.
All right, so yeah, go on.
I suppose the point of the challenge is to show that UAVs can be used in search and rescue situations, in emergency situations where it might take a group of people searching for the bushwalker a lot longer to find him, when you can just send up a UAV which can search an area a lot faster than a person could.
Is there a large? I mean, we know there's military UAV applications, but is there a large commercial sort of operational area or a market for this sort of stuff?
The commercial area is really ramping up in the last 1 or 2 years, especially now that the costs of the hardware and software are not really, really large now. It's now in the realm of non-government organizations to actually afford the hardware and software. A lot of, basically, when you need to go somewhere and look at something or look for something where it would be difficult for people to get to, you'd get a UAV. We've got companies doing aerial photography of sort of aerial photography, aerial mapping. I know some local councils and real estate agents use UAVs to take photos of houses and map out houses. You've also got companies using UAVs to fly along the course of power lines and check them out for damage as well. So any sort of situation where you need to look at something from where it would be difficult for people to go to. We've also got a massive DIY community as well, of hobbyists like ourselves who are building UAVs either for competitions or just for general interest. I mean, a hobbyist could buy a small sort of quadcopter, so a helicopter with sort of 4 propellers, one in each corner. You can get one of those on the internet, full hardware and software, for under $1,000 now.
They're the ones with the iPod applications that can allow you to fly them?
I haven't heard of any iPod applications. I suppose, if you hooked up your iPod correctly, you could definitely use it as a autopilot. It's definitely got the power for that sort of thing. It's just an issue of getting the software on it. That could definitely work.
Because there's I know a couple of people who've worked with these quadcopters, and they've actually set it up with an augmented reality app on their iPads or iPods.
Okay.
So the camera view that they see from the quadcopter is their view on the iPod, and they basically fly it.
Okay, that way. That sounds really cool. And I mean, I suppose, assuming you've got a solid radio link between the user and the UAV, that would be an awesome application for people who want to inspect power lines or
Search and rescue.
It's definitely search and rescue as well. What else? If you want to go out and inspect dams and rivers, underneath bridges even, any sort of inspection situation, a quadcopter would be a really easy or convenient way to do it.
So where to from here? How long until the competition?
The competition is at the end of September next year, so we've got close to exactly 12 months to go now. At the moment, we've got most of the hardware that we need, and it's just an issue of testing, and more testing, because we only get one shot at it on the day. So we want the aeroplane we want to know that the aeroplane, it will do what it's supposed to do. There's no bugs or errors in the software or hardware. We need to check that all the components communicate with each other and work together, and sort of all up testing of all the equipment together. We've also the image detection algorithms as well. We also need to refine a bit too.
Okay, so if anybody wants to help or wants to get involved, where should they go?
We've got our website at www.canberrauav.com. There's obviously there's other teams all over the world that you can definitely look at joining if you're not in the Canberra area. If you do a Google search for the Outback UAV Challenge, they've now got a list of teams entered in the competition. I think there's about 60 teams in it at the moment from all over the world. I think we've got about 30 teams within Australia. We've got a good showing from the US, Canada, India, Brazil, and a couple of other countries as well. So there's people doing this all over the world, which is great. It's great to see this sort of development happening. And hopefully we'll see a lot of these teams on the competition day in September next year.
And a big thank you to Steve for taking the time out as well. Now I have to apologise for some of the blips and errors in that. There was a little bit of Skype interference, but we're dealt the hands that we are. Now for the Canberra UAV Club, the URL for that is www.canberrauav.com, and if you want to find out more about the Outback Challenge, you can go along to www.uavoutbackchallenge.com.au/2011/. Now I'll include those links in the episode information as well. Now, in all of the people that I've spoken to who are doing these sort of projects, there's one common thread. That's passion. It's a passion for what they're doing. They live this. They're not doing it because they make some money. They're not doing it because they think they can get a better job out of it. They're doing it because they love the challenge. They love the thrill and the satisfaction they get when they finally succeed at doing what they've set themselves a task to do. When Paul gets on his bike and finally rides it around Canberra and it becomes his town bike, or when Stephen and the guys at the Canberra UAV Club finally get their UAV in the air at the Outback Challenge, there's going to be a sense of fulfillment that no job could ever bring them. And as we'll see when I finally do get hold of Kathy, and once again, it was my fault, I mucked that one up, she has the same thing. She's combining an old and traditional craft, such as knitting, with something new with her electronics project. Anyway, that's the episode for this fortnight. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have. You can get me on Twitter or Facebook. I have set up a Facebook page for Angry Beanie. Apart from that, I have some ideas for the next episode. I'm just going to let them flow and see how we go. But we will have episode 3 in 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, enjoy yourselves, get out there, and if you have a passion, follow it.